The command center of the United Earth Fleet's flagship, the UNS Resolute, was a hive of activity. The air was charged with palpable tension as the crew prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Captain Ethan Walker surveyed the bustling officers and crew, his face set in determination. "Report, Lieutenant Singh," Walker commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of the impending confrontation. Lieutenant Harpreet Singh, his communications officer, responded without hesitation. "Sir, the Kalan fleet is in position just beyond the Mars perimeter. Their lead envoy is demanding a communication link and is pushing for our surrender as expected." Walker nodded, his gaze shifting to the tactical display. "Open the channel, Lieutenant. Let's not keep our guests waiting." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of Thor Elk, the Kalan commander. His cold, unyielding eyes bore into Walker. "Captain Walker," the Rel began, his voice a low rumble. "This is your final chance. Surrender your planet, and we will spare your species the obliteration we have delivered to others." Walker's jaw clenched, but his reply was calm. "Commander Thorell, Earth will not surrender. We are prepared to defend our home, regardless of the consequences." Thorell sneered. "Foolish pride will be your undoing. You have 24 hours to reconsider, or you will face the full might of the Kalan Empire." As the screen went dark, the room fell silent, the weight of the threat hanging heavily in the air. Walker turned to his assembled officers. "You heard him. We have less than a day. Let's make it count. Commander Chun, status on our orbital defenses?" Commander Ming Chun, a tactical expert, stepped forward, tapping on his data pad. "All orbital stations are at full alert, sir. We can hold them off temporarily, but if they launch a full-scale assault, it'll be a different ballgame." Walker nodded thoughtfully. "And our ground forces, Major Santos?" Major Lucas Santos, responsible for planetary defenses, chimed in. "Ground batteries and mobile units are positioned and ready, sir. Urban shields are operational. We'll give them a hell of a ground fight if they come down." "Good," Walker affirmed. "Let's sharpen our teeth. It's not just about survival. It's about sending a message. Dr. Evans, I need an update on the EMP drones." The lead scientist in unconventional warfare adjusted his glasses nervously. "We've upgraded the EMP intensity, Captain. They should disable the Kalan shields long enough for our missiles to do the rest. Testing has shown promising results, but an actual scenario could vary. We'll have to take that chance," Captain Ethan Walker concluded, his voice firm. He looked around, meeting the eyes of his crew. "This is our home, our families, our future. We didn't seek this war, but we're thrust into it. Each of you plays a crucial role in our defense. Let's ensure that when our children tell the story of this day, they speak of a fight well fought." Murmurs of agreement filled the room, solidifying the crew's resolve. Walker continued, "Coordinate with all sectors. I want continuous updates and full readiness." Dismissed. As the officers dispersed to carry out their orders, Walker remained behind, his eyes lingering on the star-studded expanse beyond the viewport. Earth, with its swirling clouds and vibrant lands, seemed peacefully oblivious to the storm on its doorstep. Lieutenant Singh approached him, a slight hesitation in his step. "Sir, if there's a time for doubt, it's now. Are we really ready for this?" Walker turned, his expression resolute. "We have to be, Lieutenant. There's no alternative. We stand our ground." Singh nodded, a newfound determination in his eyes. "Then we'll stand firm, Captain. For Earth." "For Earth," Walker echoed, turning his gaze back to the stars where fate would soon be decided. The hum of activity aboard the UNS Resolute reached a fever pitch as the first signs of the Kalan fleet's approach lit up the radar screens. Captain Ethan Walker stood in the command center, flanked by his trusted officers, each of them wearing expressions of intense focus. "Lieutenant Singh, status on the enemy fleet." Walker's voice cut through the controlled chaos, his eyes fixed on the main display. "They've entered the orbital zone around Mars, Captain," Singh reported, his voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. "Their formation suggests they're gearing up for a strike." Walker nodded, turning to Commander Chun. "Ready our orbital platforms. I want the first volley to hit them hard and fast. Give them a welcome they weren't expecting." Chin's fingers danced across his console, issuing commands. Orbital platforms Alpha through Delta are locked on target and ready to fire on your command, sir. Walker didn't hesitate. Fire. The room vibrated with the distant rumble of Earth's orbital defenses unleashing their fury. On the screen, bright flashes marked the impact of heavy ordnance against the shields of the Kalan ships. Cheers broke out around the command center as several enemy ships faltered under the onslaught. Direct hit on 3 Kalan cruisers. Their shields are down, one of the tactical officers shouted. Walker allowed himself a brief smile, then turned his attention back to the battle. Keep the pressure on. Launch the interceptor squadrons. I want those cruisers out of action before they can regroup. Major Santos stepped up, his voice filled with grim determination. Ground forces are on standby, Captain. If any make it through the orbital barrage, we'll be ready to engage. Good, Walker acknowledged, then keyed into the ship-wide comms. All hands, this is Captain Walker. We've taken the first step in defending our home. Stay sharp, follow your training, and keep fighting. We depend on each other. Earth depends on us. As the battle progressed, Walker watched as the Kalan fleet adapted to the unexpected ferocity of Earth's defense. They began deploying smaller, faster strike craft designed to penetrate the orbital defenses and deliver troops directly to the surface. Dr. Evans, we need those EMP drones in the air now, Walker commanded, turning to the scientist who had been quietly monitoring the efficiency of their technology against the alien tech. Dr. Evans nodded quickly, coordinating with the drone control teams. EMP drones launching now, Captain. Targeting incoming strike craft. The screen showed small dots, representing the drones moving to intercept the Kalan strike craft. Moments later, several of the enemy craft dropped like stones, their electrical systems fried by the EMP bursts. Captain Ethan Walker kept his eyes on the display, acutely aware that every second they held the Kalan at bay increased their chances of survival. Lieutenant Singh, open a channel to the fleet. All ships, focus fire on Sector 7. Push them back, he ordered. Lieutenant Singh executed the command, and soon, the combined firepower of the Earth fleet concentrated on a vulnerable section of the Kalan forces, causing chaos within their ranks. As the first major engagement drew to a close, the Kalan, realizing the cost of underestimating Earth's defenses, began to pull back, regrouping for what would undoubtedly be a more strategic and dangerous second wave. Walker stood firm, watching the enemy's movements. They're learning, adapting. We must stay one step ahead, he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Commander Chun, reviewing the latest data, spoke up. They won't underestimate us again, sir. Next time, they'll come at us with everything they've got. Walker's response was resolute. Then we'll be ready for them. Earth isn't just another planet for them to conquer. This is our home, and we will defend it to the last. As the crew prepared for the next wave of the battle, Walker's words echoed through the Resolute, strengthening the spirit of everyone on board. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for all of humanity. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit conference room aboard the UNS Resolute, Captain Ethan Walker convened a secretive meeting with his senior staff and special guests, representatives from other subjugated species who had managed to send covert emissaries in light of recent events. Walker addressed the assembly, his tone serious yet infused with a discreet optimism. Ladies and gentlemen and esteemed guests, our resistance has not gone unnoticed. It's crucial we understand the broader ramifications of our actions and how we might influence the galaxy at large. Commander Ming Chen interjected, presenting a tactical overview. Our intel suggests several species are reconsidering their positions. The Kalan have never faced unified opposition. We've started something that could very well shift the balance. One of the emissaries, a Tlack diplomat named Serena, spoke next. Her voice was low, but carried a strength born of years under Kalan rule. Captain Walker, your actions have sparked hope across star systems. The Tlack Confederation is currently under Kalan dominion, but there is unrest. If Earth can continue to hold, it might inspire more than just passive support. Walker nodded, acknowledging her point. Our goal remains to protect Earth, but we're aware of the potential for a wider uprising. What we need is intelligence and resources. If your people are willing to support our efforts covertly, we can offer protection and share our advancements in return. Dr. Jeremy Evans then took the floor, spreading out several data pads with schematics and technical diagrams. We've made significant strides in adapting Kalen technology. Sharing this could help others protect their systems against the Empire. The room buzzed with whispered conversations as the representatives considered the implications. The strategic alliance being formed was precarious but potent. Major Lucas Santos, responsible for ground defenses, highlighted a more immediate concern. We need to solidify our defenses and prepare for the long haul. Any additional resources from our new allies could make a significant difference. The meeting moved towards logistics, with Walker emphasizing discretion and the necessity of stealth. We must operate in the shadows. The Kalen are still a formidable force, and we can't afford direct confrontations on multiple fronts. As the meeting adjourned, Lieutenant Harpreet Singh stayed behind, his expression thoughtful. "Captain, do you think we're ready for what's coming? This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about leading a potential galactic rebellion." Walker met his lieutenant's gaze squarely, his resolve clear. "We have to be, Singh. This is bigger than any of us, but remember, it all starts here with us. We set the example. We show the galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for." Outside the conference room, the stars shone brightly against the void of space, a silent testament to the myriad worlds watching Earth stand. In those distant systems, unrest stirred, fueled by broadcast images of Earth ships repelling the mighty Kalen fleet. Back on Earth, news channels and broadcasts continuously updated the populace, keeping the spirit of resistance alive. Every successful defense, every minor victory was celebrated, fostering a hardened resolve across the globe. Returning to the command deck, Walker looked out at the vastness of space, aware of the monumental task ahead. "Prepare all hands," he commanded. "The next wave will be decisive. We need to be at our best for Earth, and for those who now look to us for hope." As the Resolute prepared for the inevitable counterattack, the galaxy watched and waited, knowing that the outcome of this conflict would forever change the cosmic order. Earth's defiance had ignited a flame, and now it was up to Walker and his allies to ensure that flame did not flicker out. As dawn broke over Earth, the skies darkened, not from clouds, but from the vast fleet of Kalen warships entering the atmosphere. Captain Ethan Walker, aboard the UNS Resolute, watched the looming silhouettes with unshakable calm. Today would be a test of all they had prepared for. "Commence Operation Iron Shield," Walker commanded, his voice reverberating through the command center. "All units, execute defense protocols Alpha through Echo." This is not a drill. Commander Ming Chen coordinated the orbital defenses, his fingers moving swiftly over the console. "Orbital platforms are engaging enemy crafts, Captain. Surface-to-air missiles are locked and loaded." On the ground, Major Lucas Santos led the deployment of Earth's ground forces. Tanks rolled out of their hangars, and troops took position, their faces set with determination under their helmets. "We hold them here," Santos barked orders over the roar of artillery. "No matter what comes through those clouds, we stand firm." Back in space, the Kalen unleashed a fierce barrage, their weapons cutting through the morning sky like arcs of lethal light. The UNS Resolute shook under the impact, but the crew remained steadfast, their training keeping panic at bay. "Damage report," Walker called out as another volley rocked the ship. "Shields holding at 70%, but we can't take many more hits like that," reported Lieutenant Harpreet Singh, monitoring the ship systems closely. "Several other ships aren't as lucky, Captain." Walker gritted his teeth. "Divert auxiliary power to their shields. Keep them in the fight." As the battle intensified, Dr. Jeremy Evans and his team worked feverishly to deploy their latest defense, a network of drones designed to intercept and disrupt the Kalen's targeting systems. "Drones are operational, Captain. Deploying now." The drones proved effective, their interference buying precious time for Earth's forces to regroup and retaliate. The sky lit up with explosions, a testament to their temporary advantage. Meanwhile, on the surface, Santos and his troops faced the ground assault head-on. Kalen troops, armed with advanced weaponry, descended from their crafts, clashing with human forces in brutal close-quarters combat. Despite their technological disadvantage, the human soldiers fought with fierce tenacity, driven by the desperate need to protect their home. In the midst of the chaos, Walker remained a beacon of leadership. All units, focus on your objectives, he broadcasted to every soldier, pilot, and officer. Remember what we're fighting for. Every street, every city, every soul on this planet. The battle waged on, stretching resources and resolve thin. Walker then made a crucial decision. Chun, deploy the reserve squadrons. It's time to push them back. Chun acknowledged with a quick nod, initiating the counteroffensive. The tide of the battle began to shift subtly in Earth's favor as fresh squadrons of fighters surged forward, inflicting significant damage on the Kalan invaders. As the day waned, the Kalan, realizing their initial strategy was faltering, began to withdraw their ground forces, regrouping for a more concentrated strike. The brief respite allowed Earth's forces to breathe and reassess. Walker convened a quick council with his senior officers. We've held them for now, but this is far from over. They'll be back and in greater numbers. We need to use this time wisely, reinforce our positions, and prepare for the next wave. As the officers dispersed to carry out his orders, Walker took a moment to observe his crew. Their faces, smeared with soot and sweat, were tired but resolute. The day had been theirs, but the war was just beginning. They were under no illusions. The hardest fight was yet to come. But for now, Earth stood unbroken. Its people united like never before in the face of oblivion. As Earth braced for another onslaught, a sinister undercurrent threatened to unravel the tenuous threads of unity. Captain Ethan Walker paced his office aboard the UNS Resolute, deep in thought, reviewing reports of supply shortages and unexplained incidents. The monumental task ahead weighed heavily on him, but he remained steadfast. They had to be ready. The fate of Earth, and possibly the galaxy, depended on it. Captain Ethan Walker's instincts told him something was amiss. It wasn't just the strain of continuous battle causing the malfunctions and losses. Enter, he called out as a knock sounded at his door. Commander Ming Chun stepped inside, his expression grave. Captain, we need to talk. There's a pattern in these malfunctions and losses. It's not random. It's sabotage. Walker's eyes narrowed. Do you suspect internal involvement? Yes, sir. And there's more. Our intel points to a high-ranking officer. Communications have been intercepted that suggest he's been leaking operational plans to the Kalans. The betrayal hit Walker like a physical blow. Who? He demanded, his voice a controlled rumble. Chun handed over a file.
Lieutenant-colonel Alexei Petrov.
He's been bypassing security protocols, using his clearance to access sensitive areas during the incidents. Walker slammed his fist on the desk, the impact echoing in the quiet room. Get him here now. And I want a full security sweep. Double the guards. Monitor all communications, everything. As Chan hurried out, Walker sat wrestling with the sting of treachery. How many lives had been lost because of Petrov's actions? How much had they been set back? Hours later, Petrov was brought to Walker under heavy guard. The man looked defiant, his posture rigid as he stood before the captain. Colonel Petrov, you are charged with treason against Earth. How do you plead? Walker's tone was icy. Petrov sneered. What does it matter? You think this changes anything? The Kalan will sweep over your defenses sooner or later. I chose the winning side. Walker's gaze was unflinching. You chose to betray your planet, your comrades. For what? A seat at the Conqueror's table? It's survival, Captain. Better to rule in the shadows of the Kalans than die in the light of a doomed resistance. Petrov shot back. Walker shook his head in disgust. Take him away. He'll face a military tribunal. His fate will be decided there. After Petrov was escorted out, Walker turned to the window, watching the stars. His heart was heavy not just with the betrayal, but with the burden of leadership. How many more such wounds would they endure? The next day, Walker addressed the crew, not to sow fear, but to fortify their resolve. We have faced a betrayal from within, one that could have crippled us. But let it strengthen our resolve instead. We are not merely survivors. We are defenders of our home. Let each betrayal remind us of what we stand for. The response was a renewed vigor among the troops. The betrayal, rather than breaking them, had ignited a fiercer will to fight. Major Lucas Santos, overseeing the fortifications, remarked to Walker, "They're angrier than ever, sir. Ready to make them pay for every inch." "Yes, Major," "And so they shall," Walker replied. His determination hardened like steel. "Prepare for the next wave. It's coming, and we'll be ready." As Earth's forces tightened their ranks, their spirit was galvanized by the stark reminder of the stakes at play. The betrayal had revealed the depth of their peril, but also the strength of their unity. Now more than ever, they were ready to defend their world. The war had dragged on, with Earth's forces managing to hold their ground against the relentless Kalan assault. Captain Ethan Walker stood in the command center aboard the UNS Resolute, studying the tactical displays that showed the positioning of both Earth and Kalan forces. The mood was tense, but Walker's mind was occupied with a plan that could potentially turn the tide of the war. "Dr. Evans," Walker called over to the lead scientist, who was adjusting some equipment on the other side of the room. "Are you ready to discuss the operation?" Dr. Jeremy Evans approached, nodding. "Yes, Captain. The infiltration drones are ready. If we can deploy them successfully, we'll deliver the virus directly into the Kalan's command network." Walker turned to his tactical team. "Commander Chen, lay out the approach path for the drones." Commander Ming Chun activated the holo table, displaying a three-dimensional map of the space between Earth's last defense perimeter and the Kalan flagship. "Here's our window, Captain. It's tight, but with a precision strike team, we can make it." Walker reviewed the plan meticulously. "Major Santos, you'll lead the strike team. Take your best pilots. Those drones must reach the flagship. It's now or never." Major Lucas Santos, a seasoned combat pilot, nodded solemnly. "Understood, sir. We won't let you down." The operation commenced under the cover of darkness, exploiting brief lapses in the Kalan surveillance net. Santos and his team piloted small, agile fighters designed for minimal radar signature, each carrying a drone strapped to its undercarriage. As they neared the Kalan flagship, the risk of detection grew exponentially. "Stay tight and follow my lead." "We're almost there," Santos ordered, his voice steady. The tense silence of the cockpit was shattered when alarms blared. Kalan interceptors had locked onto them. "Engage evasive maneuvers. Deploy the drones now." Santos commanded. One by one, the drones detached from the fighters, darting towards the Kalan flagship like metallic sparrows. Santos and his team twisted and turned through space, dodging incoming fire, their hearts pounding as they watched the drones disappear into the enemy ship. Back on the Resolute, Walker and his crew waited in anxious anticipation. Minutes felt like hours until Dr. Evans received the signal on his console. "The virus is in. It's spreading through their systems." A cheer erupted in the command center, but Walker remained focused. "Monitor the effects. Let me know the moment their defenses start to fail." It didn't take long. The Kalan fleet, suddenly chaotic, struggled to maintain formation as their systems faltered. Walker seized the opportunity. "All units, this is Captain Walker. Attack now. Target the flagship and any disabled vessels. This is our chance to push them back." The Earth forces launched a full-scale assault, exploiting the confusion among the Kalan ranks. The sky lit up with explosions as the Kalan, crippled by the internal chaos caused by the virus, couldn't mount a coherent defense. As the flagship shields finally buckled under the relentless Earth assault, Walker watched, knowing this was the turning point they had been desperate for. "Keep pressing, everyone. Victory is within our reach," Walker urged. The operation had been a high-stakes gamble, but it paid off. By the time the sun rose, the Kalan fleet was in disarray, retreating to regroup, leaving Earth's forces to celebrate their first significant victory since the conflict began. Walker, though relieved, knew this was just the beginning of a new phase. "We've bought ourselves some time," he told his officers, "but the war isn't over. They'll come back harder. We need to be ready." The chapter closes with Walker and his team preparing for the next challenges, aware that the Kalan would not take this defeat lightly. The battle for Earth continued, but now, they had a fighting chance. The successful operation had not only inflicted significant damage on the enemy, but also boosted the morale and unity of Earth's defenders, reaffirming their belief in their cause and their capability to defend their home. The skies above Earth had darkened once again as the Kalan Empire, stung by their recent defeat, regrouped for what was expected to be their most devastating assault yet. Captain Ethan Walker stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, his gaze fixed on the screens displaying the massive gathering of enemy ships. The mood among the crew was a mix of resolve and grim anticipation. Reports are coming in, Captain. The Kalen are amassing not just their remaining military forces, but also calling in reinforcements from their other occupied territories, reported Commander Ming Chen, his tone somber yet steady. Walker nodded gravely. They're throwing everything they have at us. This will be the battle that decides it all. Prepare all hands for a full-scale engagement. We either hold them here, or we don't hold them at all. As the Kalen Armada advanced, Earth's forces mobilized in unprecedented numbers. Every available ship, every piece of artillery, and every soldier was ready to defend their home planet. Major Lucas Santos, now commanding the ground forces, positioned his troops strategically around key points on the planet's surface. We've fortified every possible entry point. The Kalen won't find us unprepared, Santos communicated to Walker, his voice echoing determination. In the midst of final preparations, Dr. Jeremy Evans approached Walker with a new piece of technology. Captain, we've developed what could be a game-changer. It's an advanced shielding prototype that can absorb and redistribute energy from Kalen weapons. Deploy it around our most critical defenses, Walker instructed, understanding the significance of every advantage they could muster. The battle commenced with a fury that shook the very core of Earth. Kalen warships filled the skies, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons that lit the atmosphere with destructive fire. Earth's newly installed shield generators worked overtime, dispersing the deadly energy and protecting the cities below. In space, Walker led the Resolute and its fleet in a daring offensive, pushing through the Kalen lines to target their flagship directly. All ships, focus fire on their command ship. Break their leadership, Walker ordered. The Resolute and its allies bore down on the Kalen flagship, evading volleys of return fire, their path lit by explosions and debris. Inside the flagship, the Kalen commander VOs watched the approaching Earth fleet with cold fury. This ends today, VOs, Walker declared over the open channel, his voice resolute and clear across the void. VOs responded with venomous calm. Your resistance is futile, Walker. You will fall, and Earth will be ours. But the human spirit proved indomitable. With every ship that fell, another took its place, pressing the attack relentlessly. In the fierce space battle, Walker maneuvered the Resolute to deliver a decisive blow, crippling the Kalen flagship's engines and leaving it drifting helplessly. On the ground, Santos's forces repelled the Kalen ground troops, who found themselves outmatched by the fortified positions and the fierce resolve of Earth's defenders. Every attempt to land was met with fierce resistance, and the Kalen troops began to falter. As the tide of battle turned, the Kalen, overwhelmed and unable to regroup, started retreating. Across Earth, from the crowded cities to the quiet countryside, cheers erupted as news of the retreat spread. Walker, standing on the bridge of the Resolute, watched the Kalen ships disappear into the void. He turned to his crew, pride and relief evident in his expression. Well done, everyone. You've saved not just our home, but potentially many others from the Kalen threat. The chapter concludes with Earth victorious but scarred, its cities standing strong amid the ruins of battle. The Kalen's retreat marked a new beginning for humanity, a chance to rebuild and perhaps help others in the galaxy find their own paths to freedom. As the sun rose over a battered yet unbeaten Earth, Walker and his crew looked toward a future that they had fought so fiercely to secure. After the monumental battle that pushed the Kalen forces into retreat, Earth took a brief, well-deserved breath of relief. The skies were clear for the first time in months, and across the planet, people emerged to assess the damage and celebrate their hard-fought victory. Captain Ethan Walker stood on the deck of the UNS Resolute, overlooking the reconstruction efforts already underway. The war had left scars, but it had also ignited a powerful sense of unity and purpose. Captain Walker, Commander Ming Chen approached, his face weary yet marked by a smile. We've received communications from several planets. News of the Kalen retreat is spreading fast. It seems your victory here has sparked rebellions across their empire. Walker nodded, the weight of their new responsibility dawning on him. We've shown them it's possible. We have to help them, Ming. Share our knowledge and resources. This victory isn't just about us anymore. Plans were quickly set in motion. Earth became a beacon for the oppressed, offering refuge and support. Dr. Jeremy Evans and his team worked tirelessly, not only to rebuild Earth's defenses but also to develop new technologies to aid other civilizations in their fight for freedom. Major Lucas Santos was tasked with training volunteers from different planets, sharing tactics that had been effective against the Kalans. "These are not just soldiers," Santos remarked during a training session. "They're survivors, fighters reclaiming their homes." Amid the busy reconstruction and training efforts, Walker took a moment to visit a memorial erected for those who had fallen during the invasion. Names etched in stone reminded him of the cost of their freedom. As he paid his respects, families of the fallen joined him, sharing stories of their loved ones, reinforcing the human element behind their struggle. "We didn't just fight for Earth, but for all who needed us," Walker reflected aloud, his voice firm with resolve. Back on the Resolute, Walker convened a meeting with his senior staff and representatives from other worlds. The atmosphere was one of cautious optimism, and the discussion focused on the future. "We've started something that can't be stopped," Walker began, addressing the room. "We've given hope to countless across the galaxy. Our next steps are crucial. We need to establish a coalition, not for conquest, but for mutual protection and support." The representatives agreed, each sharing their own planet's plight and hopes. A formal agreement was drafted, signaling the birth of a new interstellar alliance with Earth at its center, committed to defense and democracy. As the meeting adjourned, Walker looked out at Earth's rebuilt cities glinting under the setting sun. He thought about the long road ahead, full of challenges but also brimming with possibilities. "Captain, you've done what many thought impossible," Chen said, joining him at the window. Walker smiled, watching a ship depart for a newly allied planet. "We all did, Ming, and we'll keep doing it as long as it takes." The chapter closes with Earth not merely as a survivor of a galactic threat, but as a leader in a newfound alliance. Walker, once a military captain defending his home, now stood as a key figure in shaping a future where freedom was the right of all beings across the galaxy. The story ends with the sun dipping below the horizon, symbolizing the end of an era and the dawn of a new day. As Earth and its allies faced the future, they did so not in isolation but together, united by their shared experiences and their common desire for peace and freedom.